The Steelers are in a unique position where they're at 20. I personally think if the Steelers can move back to 25, if they can move back to 27, somewhere they pick up an extra third round pick, something like not a fourth round. It would need to be a third round if we're going to move back. If you can do that, I think the Steelers should do it. I want to repeat this. I do not believe the Steelers need to move up. No. Steelers aren't a player away. And when you're not a player away, there's no reason to give up draft picks. I know we have 2 third-round picks. We need them. There's no reason to give up a third-round pick to move up 4 spots for somebody. And I know a lot of people are going to say, if you got to move up to get a tackle, no, we don't need to do that. I think at 20 is the perfect spot unless we decide to move back. And if we move back, you don't move back that far, but that third-round pick, because nobody's going to give you a second to move back 6 where we're at, but they will give you a third. And don't take anything less than a third. But let's dive into this, man. So Steelers at 20. Let's assume there's no trades, by the way. Let me clarify that. We're not going to make any trades. So round 1, pick number 20, Pittsburgh Steelers take Talise Fuaga out of Oregon State. Number 1, he's huge, 6'6", 330, and he's a right tackle. He's exactly what the Steelers are looking for. Look, Broderick Jones is the left tackle. I know he played right tackle last year, but I'm sorry. Dan Moore, we love you, but the starting job is not yours anymore. You are going to be on our team unless we can trade you, but if you are going to be on the team, you're a swing tackle and that's it. This is the pick, Talise Fuaga, Oregon State, number 20. Now, I guess I should have clarified this at the beginning. This is how I believe the draft is going to go, okay? I know earlier in video, I said the Steelers need to address cornerback with the first 2 rounds, and I still believe that that's true. But as we all know, the draft never goes the way that you, me, anybody ever wants it to go. So things change, and you got to modify. You got to change with it. So first round, this is who I got. Talise Fuaga, right tackle out of Oregon State, a monster. He is a legit right tackle. He's not somebody we're trying to move over. We get Broderick Jones over to the left, and then we got our 2 bookends for the next 5-7 years. In my opinion, I think the Steelers could do worse. This is an outstanding pick if they can get him at 20, because he's been shooting up the draft boards, but hopefully he's there. Second pick, number 51. Now, here's a guy I've seen 100 mock drafts, when I'm trying to put this thing together. I've looked at mock drafts and positions. Somehow this guy is still there, Zach Frazier. I've seen at least at 75% of them, he's there for the Steelers to pick at number 51. The Steelers got to do it. Look, we got to have a center. We don't even have a real legitimate center on the roster. I know people are talking about James Daniels. I think James Daniels, if you started his career maybe at center, but you didn't, he's a guard. We don't want to try to change him to guard now. Or change him to center now. He needs to stay at right guard. Zach Frazier is the pick. In my opinion, I think Zach Frazier is the best center in the draft. I know people, JPJ, I know they like him, Jackson Powers Johnson. I get that. But I would prefer the guy that has started for 3 years at center, didn't switch positions, has experience being a center. I'm always very leery of the guy that's only played 1 year. I get that JPJ out of Oregon won the Remington Award. I understand that. I'm just saying I prefer the guy that has all this experience, not to mention he's nasty, plays with a mean streak, has an incredible punch, which for a center in the National Football League, you need something. And he's got the feet. He's not the most athletic guy, but he's athletic enough. And he's not going to get pushed around. Lord have mercy. How many times do we see Mason Cole just get driven into the backfield or trying to help out on a shade and can't get any movement whatsoever, so nobody gets to the second level? It's not going to be the problem with Zach Frazier. That's the pick the Steelers take, second round and number 51. Now, in the third round, this is where it starts to become real dicey. Third round, I think the Steelers go wide receiver. Number one, they got 2 picks in the third round. Again, we're assuming no trades at all. Number 3, or in the third round, number 84, Jalen Polk out of Washington. It'll be tough for him to be there. But again, we never know how the draft is going to go. We just don't. And if he happens to be there, I think he's one of the better receivers in this draft. But others don't. It's a mixed bag. So we're just looking at what the influx might be. At number 84, Jalen Polk, very productive. I think he's there. I think the Steelers take him. Look, he's got excellent size. He's got good speed. He's an outstanding route runner. At any other school, he's the number one if he doesn't play next to Rome Odunze out of Washington. If he's not playing next to him, this guy is a number one receiver on just about every college team in America. It just so happens he's playing next to a guy that may be the third or fourth receiver taken in this draft. Jalen Polk, number 84. If the Steelers can get him here, which I think he'll be available, I think they got to pull that trigger because we all know the Steelers need a wide receiver, and he would fit the bill opposite of George Pickens. I like him. He's a good route runner, great hands. He's got some speed and some size. Pretty much what the Steelers are looking for in a receiver. Yeah, I think we got to take it. Now, our second third-round pick at number 98. I talked about cornerback early. This is where the Steelers get a cornerback. Nehemiah Pritchett out of Auburn. Maybe a surprise pick to some, not to me. He's got the size. He's got the speed. He plays well against longer receivers. That is what he excelled at. Long stride receivers, bigger guys. He played well. He also plays well in man and off coverage. Now, sometimes against speedy receivers, he can have a little trouble, but he tries to gamble against speedy receivers versus just using his technique. But you can be coached out of that. You can be coached to say, hey, here's the film. Stop with the guessing. You don't need to guess. Use your ability. Use your God-given ability and use the keys. Stop guessing what receivers are going to do because then they run away from you, and they get the separation. No need to do that. That can be coached. I think he's coachable. Nehemiah Pritchett would be an outstanding pick. Again, the Steelers got to have another corner. I like the first 2 rounds, but this is the draft. We know how it goes. At 98, I think this is a steal. Maybe not the steal of the draft, but I think it's a big-time steal for the Steelers. Now, we had 4th round, number 119, Nathaniel Wilson. Look, I've been saying for weeks, the Steelers need another middle linebacker. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, hold on now. We got Holcomb, we got Roberts, we've got some guys there. And we do. However, first of all, Holcomb's knee, hopefully he comes back 100%. But we saw that knee injury. It was ugly. We love Landon Roberts. We loved what he does. We love his effort. But we watched. He wasn't great in pass coverage. He just wasn't. He gave a lot of effort, but he wasn't great in pass coverage. Now, he's outstanding against the run. Well, Nathaniel Wilson does both, and that's what we need. He's a tackling machine that can cover, okay? And in the 4th round, I don't think there's any doubt that this guy right here is a great pick at 119. Somebody he can get after the passer. He can rush from inside. He can rush from outside. Again, a tackling machine, which means you're not getting a bunch of tackles playing outside linebacker. Because that was the first thought when I brought this up to somebody earlier. They said, oh, well, he's going to be rushing from the outside. I'm like, hold on. He had 137 tackles last year. There's no outside linebacker at any level that's getting 137 tackles. Okay? That's a middle linebacker that can move to the outside. That's Nathaniel Wilson. I like what he does. In this round, we don't have a 5th round pick. I would like to wait on a linebacker, but since we don't, I think we reach because I think this might be a little bit of a reach, but I think it's better to reach and get somebody early than to wait and get somebody that you don't necessarily want. And I think the Steelers would be doing themselves justice and doing themselves a favor to reach for him in round 4 at 119. Now, no 5th round pick, as I mentioned. Going to the 6th round, number 178, McKinley Jackson I like him. I like him. The one thing about him, he is a nose tackle. Huge nose tackle. I don't know if he's going to be a starter, but he's definitely a depth piece, something that the Steelers need. He can be productive. He can be disruptive and just hold himself at the line of scrimmage, take up two blockers, don't get moved out of the hole. That is something that the Steelers need. Every team in the National Football, basically every team that plays football, from Pee Wee up to the NFL, you need depth at defensive line. This is a depth piece of somebody that I think can eventually be a starter in the National Football League. Like I said, in the 3-4, the Steelers' base defense, he wouldn't be an every down guy. He's not going to be a guy that's rushing a passer in dime coverage. He's not going to be that. But on base defense and obvious run situations, this would be nose tackle. Love this pick for the Steelers at 178. McKinley Jackson. And then lastly, our last pick of the draft, because we do not have a 7th round pick, the Steelers, Josh Wallace. I like Josh Wallace. So I know a lot of people don't. He's a corner out of Michigan. One thing that I think that he could be is a nickel corner. Every team needs nickel corners. Look, Michigan played great defense this year. A lot of people say, well, it's a product of the system is why they were good. Well, the system was put in place, and they did a lot of man coverage in Michigan. That's what they did. Whether you're playing nickel corner or wherever you were at, Michigan lined up and said, we are going to play man coverage. Well, in the National Football League, you got to be able to play man coverage. And somebody that excelled at it was Josh Wallace. I like this pick at 195. Yeah, I think that's a solid pick, especially he doesn't have to come in. Now, he can compete for the starting job, but he doesn't have to come in and necessarily be that guy. But if he can, I love it. And if he can be a nickel corner, I'd love that even more. But that is basically what the Steelers would want to do with that pick. I think they got to get at least 2 corners in this draft. I know a lot of people are saying they got to get 2 wide receivers. They got to get 2 tackles. No. Well, let's get corner. Let's get corner solidified and go from there. So that's basically the synopsis of Steelers Almighty, Steelers mock draft. Let's go over it again. Let's put them all up there. Talise Fuaga, our first pick at number 20. Zach Frazier, our center. We get him at 51. Jalen Polk, we get him at number 84, 3rd round pick. Hopefully he falls to us. Lord have mercy. If he falls to us, the Steelers are in business in this draft. I'm telling you. 2nd, 3rd round pick at number 98. Nehemiah Pritchett out of Auburn, cornerback. I love that pick. Not the steal of the draft, but close. Nathaniel Wilson, 4th round at 119. That's the one the Steelers are reaching for. That's the guy the Steelers are going to reach for. But again, tackling machine, depth at linebacker. Love the pick. McKinley Jackson, our first 6th round pick at 178. I like him. No big nose tackle. And then lastly, Josh Wallace at 195, our 2nd, 6th round pick. Nickel corner, got a lot of experience playing man coverage out of Michigan. I like the draft. And again, who in the hell knows if this is going to end up that way? But I definitely like what the Steelers would do. And here's the thing. Grade the draft in the comments. If you like what we're doing, if you like this, tell me what you think the grade would be. I think it's an A. I put it together, so obviously I think it's an A. But this is, again, we don't know what's going to happen. But if this were out there, what do you guys think about this? We address the needs: tackle, center, wide receiver, corner. We got another linebacker for depth. We got a nose tackle for depth. I like it. And definitely another cornerback at the end. I think the Steelers, if they could come away with this draft, I think it'd be near the top of the NFL. I really do. Depending on how everything else works out. Look, I don't want to be a crazy homer. I'm already a homer as it is, but I don't want to be a crazy homer. I like this draft, though. And the one thing about it, I think the Steelers with that 2nd, 3rd round pick, I've got a feeling they might make a move. I really do. I'm not necessarily going to like it, but I think they're going to package that up and try to move up in the 1st round. I think that's a mistake. I don't think we need to do it. Like I said, the Steelers are not one player away. And if you're saying that you're taking an extra third round pick to move up to get somebody, that's dicey to me. That's dicey to me. But I just have a feeling the way that the offseason has gone, the way they've been wheeling and dealing. I like Omar Khan, don't get me wrong, but the way they've been wheeling and dealing, I just have a feeling. I have this feeling that one of those 2 third-round picks is going to get packaged up and we're going to end up moving up in the draft. That's just my thought.